what's up guys, let's take a look at another CodeWars exercise. This one's called array deep count. We get an array, or since I'm doing this in Python, a list, and we want to get the length plus the length of all the lists inside of it plus the length of all the lists inside of that, and so on. Some of these going pretty deep, I think 7 or 8 is as far as I've seen, but it could be more. So for example, empty is 0. 3 things is 3. So far that's just the len function in Python already. But right here we've got a list of 3 things. If we took the len of that, it'd be 3, and we have to go one step deeper and say, well, inside of there's 1 thing. Okay, so this is the len plus more rather than flattening first. You might imagine, oh, we just flatten this first and have 3 things. But no, the answer is 4 because it's 3 things, one of which is deeper. Okay, this is 3 things, one of which is 3 things, plus 1 more, so that's 7, rather than saying, oh, well, we just flatten it all the way and it's 5. Okay, so how might we do this? Well, here's what I would like to do. I'm going to write the clean idea, and then we have to add a little bit more to make it happen. What I'd love to do is to say the length of A plus any more, right? So I would say, okay, you take deep count and map it onto A by saying, like, hey, if there are any inside of here which can go further, we do, and then we add them up. Right, like that's it. That's the idea of this thing, which is you take the length plus if there are any more, we do it. Now, unfortunately, that doesn't work because when you have a recursive function, you need 2 sides. You need, like, what if we go further and what if we don't? Okay, so what if we hit something that doesn't have any lists inside, that's just the end of the road? Well, we need to return a number. So I'm going to go match A. So we're going to say if A is a list, we do that. If A is anything else, those examples showed integers and strings, but I assume some of the other tests have whatever in there. So we just say underscore, which means else, otherwise, whatever, and we return. Well, my first thought was 1. It's like, oh yeah, the thing is 1 thing. But then I realized, no, because those 1s have already been counted. Like when I take the length of this, I say, well, that's 3. So those guys have already been counted. We don't need to go further. So instead what I do is return 0. And I think writing it this way is great because sometimes you do the base case, the end of the line first. And if I had done that, I would have said 1. Like I would have said 1 here, and then I would have tied myself in knots up here when I said, okay, well, those are going to be counted in the future, so that when I'm taking the length of this layer, I have to do like only the ones that are lists or only the ones that are not lists or whatever, and it would have made things more complicated. Instead, I can say, well, here's this expression of the idea, and then when I get down to the nitty-gritty, I make it whatever I need it to be, and that turns out to be nothing. So I'm going to hit attempt to do the big tests, and this is great. Let's take a look at the solutions from other people, because there will be some nice variety, especially from the ones who did it before pattern matching existed in Python. So let's see. Here's one absolute classic. You just go through the list. We are using len, but only as an index. And then we check the type, which is what I was doing here with the case. And if we need to, we recursively put that inner list through the same function again. So adding to an initialized 0, well, that's the same as sum, what I did over here, and going through it is the same as map. So this is pretty much the same idea as what I have, just a little bit longer, and they're getting caught in that 1 versus 0 thing instead of being able to just add the len in the first place. They have to bounce back and forth a little bit, which I avoided, which is nice. This one line. You always love the one-liners, especially here because it's not that bad, right? It's not super long. It's not lambda, lambda, a bunch of brackets. It's just, hey, 1 plus recursive if it's a list, else 0. Great, I love it. I actually think this one is pretty cool. Here's another for loop doing mostly the same as the first people. And here's a, ooh, this one's nice because they don't even have to use numbers. They just take the length plus the rest, checking if each one along the way is a list, otherwise we don't care about it. Here's one of those one-liners that I think is pretty hard to read because it's all squished together. We've got 1-letter variables, 1 and 4. I guess this is just to reduce the character count, not because the person is a sloppy typer, but hey, there are some CodeWars with a limited character count, and sometimes you do find yourself squishing things together just to get it under 100 or whatever. This is not one of those. So I love this problem because whenever I did it the first time, let me show you. I did this, checking if it's a list, keeping the sublists, which are like only the ones that are lists, but not the ones that are not lists. And while that worked, that was kind of ugly. And so whenever I came back to it today, I thought, ooh, a bit nicer. Let's stick with our straightforward pattern matching, which I love and I hope people can adopt. Thanks.